Hello everyone, welcome to my presentation. My topic is an ecological approach to second language acquisition, family as an English language learning community. My name is Dong Thị Thu Ngân. I come from the University of Languages and International Studies. My presentation today includes 4 parts. First one is my introduction, followed by the literature review, then my methods, and then the discussion. Let's start with part 1, the introduction. In the world of applied linguistics, there is now a growing interest among researchers in studying second language acquisition as an ecological phenomenon, meaning the focus now has shifted from the language classroom to other social contexts beyond the classroom. This ecological approach provides researchers a whole new perspective in understanding language learning beyond the classroom that offers an insight into the way how a group or a community can promote language learning among its members and become a learning system. Adopting Pei Freeman's ecological approach to language learning, this paper explores a family functioning as an English language learning community. For this paper, I have 2 aims. The first one is show how Pei Freeman theories work in practice, focusing on the autonomous or non-autonomous role of each family member in contributing or receiving learning resources. My second aim is to raise the awareness of EFL learners about language learning opportunities, urging them to take advantage of available resources for the sake of a mutually supportive environment for English learning in the family. My study will be presented in 3 main parts. The first part introduces some theoretical concepts related to ecological perspective. The second part reports the procedure of data collection, and the last part provides an analytical description of the chosen family as a demonstration, showing how the theoretical framework can be applied in practice. Now let's move on with part 2 of my presentation, the literature review. There are a number of concepts that I'm going to cover in my presentation. The first one is language learning resources. Second one, ecologies of language learning. Third one, learner autonomy. The fourth one, social networks. And last, family as a learning community. With language learning resources. The first key concept discussed in the paper is learning resources, which are affordances available to learners and can be used to assist their learning. According to Paul Friesman 2006 categorization, there are two types of learning resources that learners may make use of, namely material resources and social resources. But then Paul Friedman 2004 classifies resources into two different kinds: enabling resources, for example textbooks or people, and learning resources, for example knowledge or encouragement, with the former type helping learners gain access to the latter, which can make direct contribution to learning. The availability of these resources, however, does not necessarily mean that they will contribute to learners' language learning, because there are a variety of factors that can affect the interaction of learners with learning resources such as personal feelings and social or cultural ideas. Therefore, discursive resource is a third type in Paul Friesman's classification of learning resources, which refers to the ideas exchanged within a social group or community through the discourse. Ecologies of language learning. The process of learning does not exist in isolation, but in its interaction with the world. Hence, Paul Friedman sees language learning as a system in which teachers, learners, and other participants interplay. From an ecological perspective, enabling resources, learning resources, and discursive resources are provided and exchanged among learners and others in a specific context. In other words, it is the interdependence or interconnection among different elements of the same ecosystem. Additionally, the learning ecology consists of various sub-learning environments or learning communities that interact with each other in order to form mutually reinforcing language learning of an individual learner. Such out-of-the-classroom learning communities can include families, online forums, language clubs, and other social groups. Learner autonomy. As claimed by Benson 2008, autonomy is an attribute of the socially constituted individual. Hence, individuals must strive to lead autonomous lives, and society must strive to respect the freedoms that such lives require. From an ecological perspective, Paul Friedman, 2014, considers learner autonomy as the ability to consciously and deliberately use the available interacting resources for the purpose of learning, or in other words, an autonomous learner is aware of and understands the resources available to her. As an autonomous learner, she or he detects the relevant learning resources that can be found in his or her context, uses them effectively, and actively looks for new resources when needed. Moreover, identity plays an important role in learning autonomy, because any autonomous learner will have an ideal L2 self that he or she is striving towards. Social networks. According to Paul Friedman's 2011 social network theory, Every individual lives within relationship networks through which resources are transferred between people, hence stimulate or constrain their activities. Similarly, a language learner has a range of social networks that facilitate her or his learning, including advice network with people he or she asks for advice, guidance, trust network with people he or she confides in difficulty, and communication network with those who can give she or he explanation on what he or she is learning. Investigate learners' social networks along with their internal relationship, therefore can offer researchers an overall view of the way in which language learners interact with the target language, especially outside the classroom. Family as a learning community. As mentioned earlier, a group or community can support interdependent autonomy and become a learning system or a sub-learning environment. In Paul Freeman's 2011 research, he interviews some students from the United Arab Emirates and their family members and realizes that those families function as learning communities since each family member has a particular role in supporting other members' language learning. For instance, one family member provides some kinds of learning resources to another member and then receives other resources from someone else, which occurs in an ongoing exchange in order to foster individual autonomy. Within the internal network of the family functioning as a learning community, there are some core members who are better language learners and some apprentices who are beginner learners. So the core members often assist the apprentices to learn the target language. In a traditional family, parents tend to play the role of expert learners while children are novice learners. However, inverse socialization sometimes occurs when children take the teaching role. Now, let's move on with part 3, methodology. The participants of this research project are 4 people from the Nguyen family in Vietnam. The father, Mr. Nguyen, is a neurosurgeon who can communicate well in English, both verbally and in written form, as he corresponds regularly with neurosurgeons in other countries and travels overseas to attend international conferences for 3 or 4 times a year. The mother, Mrs. Nguyen, is an oncologist who also needs to travel abroad for work, but she's always accompanied by her colleagues who can interpret for her. Therefore, her communicative skill is not very good, while she can comprehend complex medical research written in English. The elder daughter, Chi, who scores 8 in the IELTS, is now studying finance at university. Her younger sister, Lei, is a high school student who plans to study abroad next year after her graduation. A 1-hour group interview via Skype is conducted to collect the information from the Nguyen family Interview is the most suitable choice for the project because interview can help to gain a better understanding of the subject matter from the participant's point. Interviewing in groups can also stimulate discussion when the participants can listen to and comment on each other's contributions. Besides, the interview is carried in their mother tongue, Vietnamese, to avoid misunderstandings. Part 4. Discussion. All the data collected from the instruments are discussed in detail to provide an analytical description of the Nguyen family. Sibling support. As the elder sibling, Chi is assigned by her parents to assist Lei with her English language learning. When they were younger, Chi's responsibility was simply to help her younger sister do English homework, but now they are both interested in watching American series, The Big Bang Theory, so the two sisters watch the series together to learn English spoken idioms and expressions. As there is no Vietnamese subtitles, Lei often asks Chi to explain the meaning of an unfamiliar slang or a joke she cannot understand. If they both do not know the answer, they may consult the dictionary or search for an explanation on the internet. Interestingly, Chi and Lei like to copy the expressions of the characters from the series, and sometimes they talk to each other in English, using those expressions to joke around. For example, later loser or shotgun. Using an enabling resource, the series, the Nguyen sisters gain access to the learning resources of American vocabulary. They can be considered as each other's social resources when they communicate in English, giving each other the chance to practice the newly acquired language items. As an advanced learner, Chi provides Lei with assistance and play the role of the core member of the family learning community. Overall, Chi and Lei appear to possess the qualities of autonomous language learners. They intentionally watch the series to improve their English with the specific goal to learn American slangs, and always seek for explanation to acquire new knowledge. This is a typical characteristic of adolescent learners because they tend to actively pursue learning opportunities beyond the classroom when they develop an interest with the subject. Both Chi and Lei show a passionate commitment to English language learning. They have followed the series for over 7 years now, perhaps because each of them has an ideal L2 self that they are striving towards. Lei plans to study overseas next year, so she wants to fit in by using the local slangs and expressions, while Chi learned those expressions to flirt because she has always dreamt of having an American boyfriend. However, conflicts do happen sometimes. When they speak English to each other, Chi occasionally corrects Lei's pronunciation mistakes. For example, missing ending sounds, which Lei describes as annoying and killing the joy. Teenagers like Lei have a pronounced search for identity and a need for self-esteem, which makes them find it difficult to accept such a negative comment, even from her close sibling. Parent support. As supportive parents, Mr. and Mrs. Nguyen are social resources for their children's English learning. Paul Freeman, 2011, claims that parents are seen as setting the tone of the family environment and are key to learner trust networks. According to Mr. Nguyen, talking to English native speakers is the best way to improve English learning skills. His discursive resource has led to his providing the two girls some opportunities to speak English with native speakers. He sometimes invites Australian or Canadian colleagues to his house for dinner, and last year he arranged a vacation in Singapore for the whole family. In this case, the social resources, talking to native speakers, result from the discursive resources, Mr. Nguyen's ideas and beliefs. Similarly, Mrs. Nguyen often encourages the daughters with her words. Sometimes Lei felt stressed with her study at school. I'm not good enough at English to help her with her homework, but I told her that English learning is a lifelong process, so you need to be patient. You cannot rush it. It is worth noticing that inverse socialization does happen in the Nguyen family when Chi is the core member that offers help to not only her younger sister but also her parents. Mr. and Mrs. Nguyen are extremely proud of Chi's academic achievement, especially her 8 in IELTS, so they often count on her English language expertise. For instance, Mr. Nguyen frequently consults Chi about his word choice when composing emails to an American professor. Additionally, when foreign guests come to their house and Mrs. Nguyen struggles to understand them, Chi helps her mother by repeating or simplifying the questions. Nevertheless, Mr. and Mrs. Nguyen confess that they may be insensitive when making a comparison between their two daughters. Like, you should be more like your sister, which can accidentally lower Lei's self-esteem and hurt her feelings. Lei also admits that those words make her feel demotivated and sometimes. In this situation, the discursive resources do not support but pose a threat to language learning process. As mentioned above, teenagers can become vulnerable to negative comments from others due to the distinctive feature of their age. Conclusion. This paper sheds light upon the English language learning beyond the classroom of a family in an EFL context. In this household, every member has his or her own roles in supporting others' learning by providing or receiving learning resources. Despite some miscommunication due to the age difference, the Nguyen family is an excellent example of a family functioning as a learning community, which can serve as a role model for other families in the same EFL context in order to promote better English learning for everyone. Here's my reference list. That is also the end of my presentation. If you have any question, please contact me. Thank you very much.